found the haul at around 10 on the night of January 14th. The drugs were in a semi-trailer with a load of commercial goods trying to cross the border south of Boissevain, Manitoba. Investigators say they don't yet know where the semi was coming from, only that it was heading to Winnipeg from the U.S.
This truck was selected for further examination. It was during that examination that our officers found narcotics inside of several large suitcases, as you can see on the screen here.
The driver was arrested and turned over to the RCMP. He's charged with importing meth and possession for the purpose of trafficking.
The origin and size of the shipment leads us to believe that this involved organized crime at the local, national, and international level. While the drugs were destined for Winnipeg, we also strongly believe that they would have been distributed to communities across Manitoba and possibly to locations across Western Canada and into Ontario.
This latest bust is nearly double the previous record. On Christmas Day in 2020, border officers found 228 kilograms of meth. It was on a semi carrying produce at the Coutts, Alberta crossing. Those drugs were worth an estimated $28.5 million on the street.
In the Boissevain bust, 4 million doses of meth were discovered. In the second largest bust at Coutts, Alberta, there were 2.28 million doses found by border officers. Here's what people in Boissevain, a town of around 1,500, told us.
It's crazy to me. I would never expect anything like that to happen this close to Boissevain.
As long as he sees it and they get the stuff, then, that's good, because you don't want it on their streets for our kids.
If you're wondering where the drugs came from, investigators are still trying to figure that out. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
People gathered in Winnipeg's North End for a vigil last night to remember Crystal Saunders. Police announced Monday they'd arrested a suspect in the death of the 24-year-old Métis woman 17 years after she was killed. As CBC's Cameron McLean reports, we're also learning more now about the man charged with her murder.
I never, ever thought this day would come. Never.
Cynthia Roulette is the grandmother of Crystal Saunders' cousin. She says she was relieved to hear police use the latest DNA technology to link a suspect to Saunders' death. 42-year-old Kevin Q is facing the charge of second-degree murder.
We always wished and hoped that Crystal was at peace, and we believed in our hearts that she was. But when we found out yesterday that this guy had been caught, it was like so wonderful.
Saunders was last seen getting into a vehicle at the corner of Sargent and Sherbrooke on April 18, 2007. Her body was found the next day near St. Ambrose, Manitoba. DNA found on her body was linked to Q in 2014, but it would take another decade before police had enough evidence to charge him. Court documents show Q had a violent criminal history. He pleaded guilty to attacking 2 women in BC and was sentenced to 5 years in prison in 2015. In one case, the victim says Q sexually assaulted her for up to 5 hours. In another case, Q choked his victim to unconsciousness. That attack was witnessed by the victim's 12-year-old daughter. The prosecutor in the case told the court the girl overheard Q saying, "That's something in me that I'm frankly scared of." The judge in the case told Q that his tendency for sexual violence suggested a deeper problem. You would be wise that you get to the bottom of it, in your interest and certainly for the interest of members of the public who I consider to be at risk. At the vigil, Sue Caribou said the arrest is welcome news for families of other missing and murdered Indigenous women. Caribou's niece, Tanya Nepanak, went missing in 2011.
There's hope now. I have hope for my loved ones, for their murderers to be found and have justice.
Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Every winter, the federal and provincial governments pour tens of millions of dollars into creating a winter road system to temporarily connect fly-in communities with the rest of Manitoba. It's an investment that melts away. With this unseasonably warm weather, some winter roads that recently opened are already becoming impassable. Northern First Nations want to see a solution, something they say should have been built years ago. The CBC's Ian Fraze reports.
The equipment used to build winter roads sinking below the melting snow and ice, a sign that as temperatures rise, these northern Manitoba roads are unreliable.
The roads get chewed up when it turns warm.
Some First Nations chiefs say they have an answer. They want an all-season road, spanning from St. Teresa Point First Nation to Barons River First Nation. This winter, some communities aren't getting deliveries of fuel and other essentials.
It's no longer a want, it's a mean.
In the cold months, these communities are usually serviced by winter roads, but a 250-kilometer all-season road would provide reliable access to services and healthcare. The road could expand farther north. The chiefs are asking for $600 million to build it over 5 years.
So I genuinely hope the federal and the provincial government will fully endorse and back this proposed road construction project.
The province tried to build all-weather roads to remote communities along Lake Winnipeg, but the previous Conservative government cancelled the East Side Road project. The NDP government says it'll listen to this new proposal.
We're fully engaged with the communities, and I believe we'll have further discussion and comment through the Minister of Infrastructure.
Federal Northern Affairs Minister Dan Van Dal says building more all-season roads is important. One of those roads opened in 2019, giving Shoal Lake 40 First Nation its first land link. It's affectionately known as Freedom Road, a term these chiefs are borrowing.
The road, which we're calling Freedom Road, I like that.
They say this all-weather link would end their isolation. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Well, it seems libraries in Winnipeg have gotten safer, and community safety hosts are making a difference. Today, we're seeing the first report into safety and attendance at City of Winnipeg libraries since the city ordered security enhancements last year. There were fewer incidents reported from October to December last year compared with the year before. The report also found attendance was up at all branches except the downtown Millennium Library. Of course, that's the branch where safety concerns among staff had been the most prevalent. The report now credits the presence of community safety hosts with improving staff morale. Those specially trained hosts were brought in to help de-escalate incidents so library staff would not have to intervene. The quarterback who wore a cowboy hat and a fur coat to the 2019 Grey Cup parade is coming back. Chris Strevler will don the blue and gold once again. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers say they've agreed to a one-year contract with Strevler. He spent the last 4 seasons in the NFL with the Arizona Cardinals and New York Jets. He also had brief stints with the Baltimore Ravens and Miami Dolphins. Strevler started 12 games in 2018 and 2019 for the Bombers. He was a fan favorite. A recent comment by a city councillor suggesting Winnipeggers have been spoiled by sidewalk snow clearing left at least one voter disappointed. Melissa Graham's wheelchair has gotten stuck on snow-covered sidewalks repeatedly, leaving her having to rely on passers-by for help. CBC's Zubina Ahmed has her story.
The ice and slush on the sidewalk in front of Melissa Graham's apartment restricts her movements. Days when the sidewalks are not cleared, her wheelchair gets stuck in deep ruts, and she has to rely on others to move if she wants to go out.
I was trying to make an appointment about a 15-20 minute walk from here. I ended up getting stuck about 4 times. And I am fortunate to live in a neighborhood where thankfully, I have neighbors that are comfortable pulling over and helping me out. Not everyone lives in that kind of neighborhood in this city.
Graham says she was disappointed in Councillor Janice Luke's comments at the city's Public Works Committee on Tuesday. Councillor Matt Allard brought forward a motion to clear all sidewalks at the same priority level as city streets. The committee decided not to take action.
Honestly, we're a snow city, and I think we're doing incredible work, and I think sometimes we get a little spoiled from the incredible work we're doing, and we want it instantaneously.
What really disheartened me is that they fail to see sidewalk snow clearing as an accessibility issue that not only impacts people with disability, but people without disabilities as well.
Graham says uncleared sidewalks prevent a lot of people from leaving their homes in winters. She wants the committee to realize sidewalks should be a top priority for snow clearing as a matter of public safety.
I think they should really reconsider that motion to bring all the sidewalks in the city up to P1 level and stop discriminating about sidewalks based on where people live. All people should have the right to access their sidewalks throughout winter.
Luke says her comment was in reference to how snow clearing is done elsewhere.
Many cities do not plow residential roads throughout the year, depending on the snowfall. Winnipeg does 2 or 3 residential road plows.
Luke says the committee rejected the motion because it could cost the city an estimated $60 million a year. Zabina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Riley Leitchuk joins us now with our weather. Of course, we've seen so much melting these days. You not only have to be worried about snowpack, but the ice out there, sometimes it can be very slippery.
Very slippery, but I guess the one upside is it's easier to kind of chip that ice away when it's a little bit slushy on top like that.
Be careful if you're
walking. Yeah. It's been another incredibly warm day across Manitoba. Another record-breaking day as well. Let's look at some of the numbers because some of these numbers from yesterday are quite staggering. McCreary getting up to 14.2 degrees yesterday. Yeah, on January the 30th. That broke a record from 1999 of just about 11 degrees. Dauphin, Portage La Prairie over 8 degrees yesterday, as was the Morden Winkler region, all breaking records from 93s for Winkler and Dauphin, and going back to 1892 for the Portage La Prairie region. So quite warm in southern Manitoba. Even Churchill yesterday breaking a record. 2.7 degrees was the high yesterday. So looking at Winnipeg a little bit closer here. So our record maximum temperature for this day, January 31st, is 5 degrees in 1952. Today at the Forks, we got to 4.6 at the airport, that is. But the Forks, we got to about 7 degrees, 6.7 to be exact. So we'll have to see what Environment Canada does with those numbers once we get into tomorrow. But we're on tap to seeing one of the warmest overnight temperatures we've had in a few years as well. The warmest overnight temperature was minus 5.2 back in 2020. Last night, in comparison, was +1. That's all we got to last night. +1 is what we're at in Winnipeg right now. West winds at 15. The pressure is rising right now. We will see a little bit of cloud moving into Manitoba, so we'll talk about that in just a moment. Looking at satellite radar right now, fairly clear sky across much of Manitoba. A little bit of lingering cloud from that area of low pressure that did bring about 10 centimeters of snow to parts of northern Manitoba. And as we look ahead, we'll see a little bit more cloud cover building into the southern part of the province as well, starting the day tomorrow with a bit of cloud cover. Increasing clouds. I'm calling it cloudy with sunny breaks through the day tomorrow. I think we will start to see some sunnier breaks as we get through the afternoon tomorrow, because we do see a little bit of breaks in some of this cloud. So not a total gray sky tomorrow, but that cloud does hang around as we get into the day on Friday as well. We're expecting cloudy with sunny breaks is what I'm calling again for Friday and into Saturday, when we start to see a little bit more cloud cover start to move in. So we're looking at a low of -5 in Winnipeg tonight. A few clouds, north winds at 10, and we're going to see fairly warm or light winds as we get into the morning tomorrow, and warm conditions, -3 with a bit of cloud building in, and 0 by the time we get to the afternoon with mainly cloudy skies, some sunny breaks, and that trend continues over the next few days. 1 for Friday, 3s for both Saturday and Sunday with increasing amounts of sun and clouds. So looking at January at a glance now, and I know this is not quite an official number for the 31st, but it kind of is right on with what we've seen. So far we've seen 19 days, almost 2/3 of the month has been above seasonal for this time of the year. We did have that cold snap through the middle of the month, temperatures below seasonal, and just 2 days this month where we are at the seasonal high. So that gives you a sense of just what the weather's been like. And of course, this year's warm winter has been a topic of conversation, and it could be record-breaking as well. According to weather data, our mild winter is on pace to tie a record from the 1800s. We'll hear from a researcher at the University of Manitoba in just a moment, but first, here's what some Winnipeggers had to say about this warmth.
It's January 31st. How are you enjoying this unusually warm day?
Oh, it's unreal. Like right now, I took my sweater off. It's too warm for me, and it's just great to be outside and just enjoy the good weather.
As a mom, I feel like our mental health is just so much higher because, like they said before, we can actually get outside and get out and about and enjoy the weather as opposed to being cooped up and worried about naps and things.
So you're here from Mexico. How do you feel about this weather?
It's very cold, really. No, yeah, I was telling her, I was like, this is usually warm for now. It's pretty warm. And she was like, how is this warm? She was like, this is way too cold. But yeah, compared to the past weather we've been having, this is like summer, basically.
It's uplifting for sure, just because I feel like people in winter, it kind of brings their mood down, but just being able to enjoy it more year round than usual, it's just definitely a good plus.
It can be really depressing when you're stuck in your house and it's too cold to go outside, so this is just a really nice break. Yeah. I don't know how long it'll last, but fingers crossed for a while.
And joining me now is Alex Crawford, Assistant Professor in the Environment and Geography Department at the University of Manitoba. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So how did you find out we were on pace to set this record?
Well, I found out because, number one, I've been paying attention to the winter, and I've been paying attention to the temperature record because I'm a weather nerd. That is really the number one reason. But the second thing I would say is that I was primed to be looking for this because we know that 2023 was our warmest year on record for the world as a whole, including in Canada. It was very hot. And we're also in an El Nino year right now. So El Nino years are years we do expect Winnipeg to be a bit warmer. So you take those two things together, and I've been paying close attention.
Yeah. So, this winter has not had a lot of cold days. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when I say it's a cold day, what I mean is the temperature getting down below -20 in the morning? So is the daily low or the daily minimum below -20? Those are really cold days, and we've only had 12 of them so far this winter. And at this point in winter, so we're about halfway through when you're at January 31st, that ties the record for the fewest we've ever had.
So, I mean, you mentioned that, we're, of course, in an El Nino year. We just came off the hottest year on record for the Earth in 2023. Would be concerned, I guess, that we haven't had that many cold days yet here?
I think that I would say, number one, this year probably is going to be anomalous or different, abnormal, even compared to the next 5 or 10 years. So from that standpoint, I don't think people should be concerned that this is the new normal right now. But I do think that it is worth noting that as we see global warming progress, we do expect this type of year to become more common in Winnipeg. And if you go 30, 50 years into the future, what we're seeing now might start to look a bit more normal.
Okay. So how does climate change play a factor into all of this?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we're emitting greenhouse gases in the atmosphere every year, those slowly accumulate over time in the atmosphere, and that is driving a long-term increase that's very slow, very gradual, but an increase in the global temperature. And that does affect everywhere, including Winnipeg. And so when you're thinking about, are you going to get -20 degrees Celsius in Winnipeg today? Well, the global temperature is only one thing that matters. What the polar jet stream is doing matters. Whether you're getting winds coming from the south or from the north matters. Whether there's an El Nino or not matters. But in the background of all of that is that global temperature. And so the warmer the world gets as a whole, the less likely it is that Winnipeg is going to see that -20 degree temperature on any given day.
Right. So what do you hope, I guess, long-term, short-term, what do you hope people realize about how warm this winter has been?
I think that for me, I felt the climate change more this year personally than I ever have before, and that's in large part because I have been unable to engage in the winter activities that I am used to. For example, the Forks is closed right now, and if you go look at my Facebook page or my wife's Facebook page, you can see us skating at the Forks this day of year, every year for the past 4 years. It's something we can't do right now. And that, again, when you start talking about this becoming more normal in the future, there will be more years in the future when it's the middle or the end of January and you can't go skating at the Forks. So I think that's one of those things where it does affect something that is part of the cultural identity of Winnipeg, and that does start to matter a bit.
For sure. Alex Crawford, I want to thank you for your time, and thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
He stayed in Gaza to bear witness to the war. Now, a Canadian citizen journalist is missing. The story after the break. The federal government says it's trying to find out what happened to a Canadian citizen who's missing in Gaza. He's a citizen journalist who'd been reporting from the territory since the Israel-Hamas war broke out in early October. But he fell silent nearly 2 weeks ago. CBC's Tom Perry reports.
You can hear the sound of the buzzing drones. I think in the beginning of the video you also heard the strikes.
He's one of the few voices offering the world a glimpse inside Gaza under siege.
It's been a little bit chaotic here.
Mansour Schumann, a Canadian citizen journalist who's been sending dispatches and speaking to Western media, including the CBC, throughout the war.
We have our faith in God. We are strong Muslim believers here. And whatever comes, we hope that we'll be able to get through it safe and sound. It's January the 21st, 2024, live here from Gaza.
Schumann's last report was 10 days ago. He hasn't been heard from since. His mother now desperate to find out what's happened to her son.
It's 10 days of horror to me. Sleepless nights. I just can't sleep. I can't live. I need to know what happened to him.
Shuman's mother tried at times to persuade her son to leave Gaza. His wife and children got out in November, along with hundreds of other Canadians. Shuman stayed behind
with your support
to keep telling his stories.
Mansour did feel a sense of responsibility that he could make a difference.
Zahira Sumar, a colleague of Shuman, has been trying to piece together what happened to her friend. The story she's hearing out of Gaza is that he was detained by Israeli soldiers.
We had 3 eyewitnesses say, we saw Mansour at the checkpoint between Khan Yunis and Rafah being arrested, being pulled aside out of a bigger group and being arrested.
Shuman's friends and family have been pressing the Canadian government for more information.
We are actively engaged. We are actively working on this. We're talking to everyone. We're taking this one very seriously.
But that's little comfort to Shuman's family, who still don't know where he is and are just hoping he's safe. Tom Perry, CBC News, Ottawa.
The United States is signaling it is preparing to retaliate against Iran for a drone strike that killed 3 American soldiers in Jordan. And Iran is threatening to decisively respond to any U.S. attack. During an official event, the head of Iran's Revolutionary Guard said no threat will be left unanswered, unquote. He also said the country isn't looking for a war, but is not afraid of it. U.S. President Joe Biden says he's already decided how to respond to the drone attack that killed 3 U.S. service members and wounded 40 others. But he gave no details over the weekend. American forces in the region have been engaged in tit-for-tat strikes with pro-Iranian armed groups since the Israel-Hamas war broke out in October. All 5 players from the Canadian team that competed in the 2018 World Junior Hockey Championship intend to plead not guilty to charges of sexual assault. That's according to their lawyers. We can now confirm the names of all the individuals. 4 of the players are now with NHL teams. They are Dylan Dubé of the Calgary Flames, Cal Foote and Michael McLeod of the New Jersey Devils, and Carter Hart of the Philadelphia Flyers. Former NHLer Alex Formenton, who's been playing in Switzerland, is the 5th player charged. A woman says she was assaulted by all the men following a gala in London, Ontario, 6 years ago. Canada's overall rental vacancy rate dropped to 1.5% last year. That's the lowest rate since 1988, when the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation began recording the vacancy rate. Here in Winnipeg, our vacancy rate fell to 1.8%. Rent for the average 2-bedroom apartment here jumped 4.4% to just over $1,400 a month. CBC's Aaron Collins now looks at what's happening across the country.
The CMHC says the stock of rental units is at an all-time low in Canada and that the average price to rent those homes is rising at a record rate. It's a perfect storm for thousands of Canadians searching for a place to rent. The national vacancy rate has plummeted to just 1.5%, and the cost to rent a place has spiked by an average of 8%.
Demand is coming from new renter households coming from abroad as immigrants, but also young Canadians who are searching for their first dwelling, and also older Canadians who are choosing and needing actually to downsize.
That squeeze is being felt most by lower income Canadians, including seniors. At this seniors center in Calgary, staff say the wait for affordable seniors housing in the city has skyrocketed in recent years.
It's a crisis, and it's terrifying and heartbreaking when people come in and say, I don't know where I'm going to live. You know, I sold my house, I'm renting now, or I want to move into an apartment, and they just can't get in, or they just can't afford it.
Alberta saw the biggest drop in vacancies in the country. The province also saw the largest jump in rental prices. In Calgary, rents ballooned by more than 14% in the last year, a jump that has forced some in the city onto the streets.
So we have 115,000 people in Calgary, that's about 40,000 households, who are at extreme risk of homelessness. So this means that they're still sheltered, but they have leveraged absolutely every asset they have. They're probably in an overcrowding or couch surfing situation, and they're barely holding on.
The rental crunch, part of a larger affordability crisis, driven in part by inflation and high interest rates. Those pressures are expected to ease somewhat this year, but the real key to Canada's rental crunch is a lack of housing, and that shortage something that will take more time to address. Aaron Collins, CBC News, Calgary.
Many of us turn to thrift stores as a way to reduce waste and also save money. But one of the biggest for-profit thrift stores is being called out over its pricing. Why customers are questioning the value of goods at Value Village next. You may have noticed the difference yourself. One of the biggest and most popular for-profit thrift stores in the country is being criticized now about its pricing. In the past, customers could rely on getting a discount by shopping at Value Village. But now many accuse the company of massively marking up used items. Nisha Patel explains.
Shoppers like Evan Boyce say Value Village has lost its value.
Just kind of feels like a rip-off, to be honest.
In Toronto, he spotted this used vase for sale for about $9. Then realized it would have cost him only $3 to buy brand new at Dollarama.
Most of what they have was donated, so why is there the need to mark it up so much?
The wild prices are a hot topic on social media. From kids' shoes in British Columbia to books in Manitoba, examples of massive markups are piling up.
Give me a break, Value Village. Give me a break.
Customers have called out other thrift stores too, though many, like Goodwill, are nonprofits. Value Village is a for-profit business owned by an American private equity firm. While all of its inventory comes from secondhand donations, Value Village pays charity partners a flat rate for the goods they collect on the company's behalf.
Thrift proud, Value Village.
This recent backlash could weigh on the brand.
If you're going to a thrift store, we would assume that it's going to be less money. And so when you realize that it's not, it kind of breaks what we know to be true.
There are few rules about how businesses price their products. But experts say customers who feel duped are less likely to return.
We're going to be a lot more cautious next time we buy.
Canadians have been turning to thrift stores more often lately, making an effort to shop sustainably or trying to save money as the cost of living soars. They may need to remember the motto, buyer beware.
If you see something that doesn't look like a good price, it's easy to walk on and find something else new.
Some shoppers say they'll still hunt for a bargain.
They're going to try and maximize, get as much money from you as you can, and it's up to us to keep our money.
And Miss Eleanor, what's your favorite thing that you find there?
I don't know. I like to read books, so I find a lot of good books there.
Value Village says thousands of products come through its stores every week. And if customers think an item has been mispriced, they should bring it up with a manager. Nisha Patel, CBC News, Toronto.
Our weather specialist Riley Lachuk joins us once again. I found that calendar you showed us of all the days in January that we've been warmer than normal really startling to see. Yeah. Is there any sign as we look into February of this warm trend coming to an end?
Not at least in the next 7 days, Janet. We're staying consistently and very unseasonably warm, even as we head into the next 7 days. We'll take a look at that now. This is what the computer model is predicting. Our normal high for this time of the year, keep in mind, at -11. And that will rise as we get into February, but not as high as these temperatures. The computer modeling suggesting that we're going to see temperatures through the weekend climbing once again to 3 and 4 degrees, even into next Wednesday. So, and even beyond that, the long-term modeling showing not a lot in terms of temperatures returning to seasonal. Yes, we might start to see things dipping below the 0 mark again, but not as cold as normal for this time of the year. So looking at some temperatures now around the country, and you can see the jet stream here, how far this really arcs north, even parts of the Northwest Territories above seasonal for this time of the year. +6 in Calgary and double digits, 12s in both Vancouver and Victoria. So you can see much of Western Canada in this warmth, but the cooler air really ushering in a little bit further into central Manitoba. We've seen temperatures after that low pressure system went through really kind of cooling off as we got through the day today. -15 in Thompson right now, -17 in Churchill. Temperatures down at about 11, 12 degrees through Nebraska, 10 in Minneapolis, and temperatures around freezing for much of eastern Canada. Closer to home, we're looking at temperatures still around the 0 mark, 5 in Selkirk, 1 at the airport, but still 6 degrees at the Forks. So the downtown sort of heat effect having a little bit of a play on the temperatures here in downtown Winnipeg. At the freezing mark in Brandon, Swan River's at +2 right now, -1 in Barons River. And you can see the contrast here where we have temperatures at -2 in Flin Flon, but -15 in Thompson. So just to give you a bit of a sense of where that dividing line is. So we're looking at mainly cloudy skies tonight, slim chance of some drizzle through Dryden and Red Lake tonight. Otherwise, we'll start to see some clouds building in as we get through into the early morning hours for southeastern Manitoba. -5s, -4s for the southeast. Temperatures around -7 for the southwest for Brandon and Melita. Partly cloudy skies tonight, and we'll see temperatures around -14 in Lynn Lake tonight, but -6 only in Flin Flon and the Paw with clouds building in. Slim chance maybe of some lingering flurries at the Island Lake region early this evening, then clearing toward a sunnier sky tomorrow, -6 in the afternoon, -4 in Norway House. The southwest looking at a mix of sun and clouds, a little bit more cloud the further east you go through the day tomorrow. So areas like Portage are looking at cloudier skies, and say Verdun and Melita, which will be around 4 degrees tomorrow afternoon. The southeast looking at temperatures around the freezing mark with that cloud cover. And Janet, northwestern Ontario, looking at temperatures around the freezing mark as well. And we'll see clouds start to build in to northwestern Ontario later in the day. Your 7 days coming up.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, Riley.
You're welcome.
Now, of course, Manitoba is not the only province seeing milder than normal temperatures. Much of Western Canada has seen extreme swings. A community in southwestern BC is under a local state of emergency right now because of flooding. The village of Pemberton issued evacuation orders for several properties yesterday, and people in another 45 properties in low-lying areas have been told to be ready to leave quickly. Heavy rain since last week and melting snow have caused rising water levels across the region. Those levels dropped since yesterday, but more rain is falling. There's also been localized flooding south of Pemberton in the Squamish area. Rainfall warnings have been issued there and further south in Howe Sound. Warmer weather is expected to accelerate the snow melt and bring more water down to the rivers. I'll bet you've heard of glow bowling, but this is way more Canadian. This is the Argyle Curling Club lighting up the house with glow curling. We'll hear all about it coming up after the break. Well, the warm weather we've been having has canceled plans for an outdoor bonspiel in Winnipeg this weekend. The Ironman, in support of the Heart and Stroke Foundation, has been rescheduled to the middle of February. Luckily, the women's bonspiel in Argyle this Saturday will be going ahead as planned. It's indoors. Weather doesn't matter, but attire does. You see, this will be a glow curling bonspiel. Natalia Peterson is one of the dedicated volunteers at the Argyle Curling Club. Hi, Natalia. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Janet. Happy to be here.
Could you please describe what it's like to glow curl?
Well, I think lots of people have an understanding of what glow bowling is. So a lot of concepts from that. However, it's curling and the ice surface glows, so you're lit up from what you're standing on, which is super fun. And obviously, if you enjoy curling, it's kind of an easy thing to jump into, but we definitely encourage newcomers to join in as well.
Is there something special in the ice that makes the rings glow?
Yes, we like to say we put a little magic in the ice. Yeah, our group has been at this for like the last 3 years, and every year we've been making improvements. Our volunteers have done a lot of trial and error, and yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, I feel like a kid when I'm out there because it's like, whoa, it's lighting up from the ground or from the ice.
Well, you feel like a kid when you're out there. How do other people feel? Is this bringing more people out to try it?
Yeah, it's bringing out a lot of people in the community. We've had a lot of great feedback from all over the province. Both our glow bonspiels are full right now. Seeing a variety of teams join, so people who've never curled before just want to try something new. Family teams joining in, which is great to see, like seeing parents and their kids or even grandparents curling with their kids for the first time. So that always kind of warms the heart. And yeah, just people being like, hey, this seems like a fun thing to do on a weekend. Let's give it a go.
If you turn the regular lights on, are you back to just normal curling?
Yeah. So we have like glow curling setup and regular curling setup. So our league is as per usual curling. And then, yeah, we do these two glow bonspiels in February. I mean, some people do I Love to Read month, and in Argyle we love glow curling month. So
that is very cool. Let's talk about playing. And you're kind of in the dark with the glowing happening. Does it impact the way you play?
Your eyes adjust, and I think lots of times, like in sports, it's a little bit more visual. But with glow curling, like the timing of the rock going on the ice isn't as noticeable. Our handles glow, but it's just like a bit of a different feel, and takes an end or two to kind of get your head wrapped around it. And then as well, like when you're throwing, you're trying to aim at a skip's broom, but if they don't have anything on their broom that is, making it glow or light up, it makes it kind of tricky. But again, people as they go figure things out, and we offer like glow sticks to put on things and all that to try to help out.
Have any other curling clubs reached out and said they want to try this too?
Yeah, we've had quite a few from all over Canada, actually. And a couple more local clubs just either, just want to come by and check it out, or talk to our volunteers who have been super involved in it. Riley Buchanan was the one who started this off a couple of years ago. So he's been in contact with teams and clubs, as well as Trevor Buchanan. We're kind of joking that he could probably start that as a side consulting business, but we're not the first group in Canada to do this. I've seen comments on social media that it's all around Canada, and everyone has a different way of doing it, and it's just great to see that more people are finding a way to get into a curling rink.
Natalia Peterson, thank you so much for joining us today. Have fun this weekend.
Great, thanks for having me.
A 23-second video that went viral on social media changed a Winnipeg teenager's life. She's an animator named Sierra Cancino. A team of aspiring filmmakers taking the Create Entertainment Arts training program at Sisler High School take us inside Sierra's colorful world.
At first I was super shocked.
I didn't know what to do with myself when I saw the numbers. The numbers were crazy. I think it blew up on TikTok first, and then once I posted it to YouTube, that's when the numbers really started coming in. Hi, my name is Sierra Cancino. I go by she, her pronouns, and I'm an animator on YouTube.
It's very nice of you to talk at your full 2D glory. How did you exactly come up with like that 20-second animation?
Around the time that I was starting to make it, it was around Valentine's Day. And so I tried my hardest to kind of just think of a plot, you know, just like a tiny little story that I could tell. It kind of just happened by accident almost. The dynamic of the two characters, it has that like rom-com vibe to it. The guy gets outplayed by the girl, that kind of thing. I saw tons of comments just saying, oh my gosh, this is making me blush. I'm like I'm so invested in these characters. I need more. And so I think that's why that blew up in the way it did. So by blowing up, I reached a lot of people. It inspired me to keep creating. And once I started creating, I had this one animation kind of go viral as well, and it actually reached the band that had made the music for the video.
On most like social media platforms, if someone uses your music, you can scroll through and see like who's used your sound. And we found that one and it was amazing. It was like really, really well done. I think initially actually we wanted to hire her to just do like little animations for different songs. And I think I actually remember Sierra asked us, she was like, hey, I know you wanted me to do a few more of these, but instead of doing a few more, what if I just did like one full music video?
Can you tell me there's an issue? I see them crowded all around you. Why can't you tell me there's an issue you've seen before?
What gets me through my doubts is looking back and seeing how far I've come. The fact that I keep creating what I like, the fact that I keep showing up and doing work and putting effort into what I like, that keeps me going. Anything that you're going through, anything that you're expressing through your art, someone will be out there to receive it. And you never know if that will ever change someone's life. And through my art, that's exactly what I want to do.
Well done. Wasn't that impressive? That's Sierra Cancino. The story was produced by Sisler Create students Gabriel Bezo, Bridget Clemente, and Marcus Remiskol. Well done, guys.
It's January 31st and we're out here golfing.
What? January 31st and they're golfing? A sign of spring, only in January. Shooters Golf Course, the driving range was open today. Hey, if you wanted to get out and hit a bucket of balls, Shooters is the place apparently. Stay tuned. Riley has your 7-day forecast after the break.
All right, here's a look at your day planner as we head into the day on Thursday. Tomorrow, we're looking at a temperature of -3, light winds. First thing in the morning, we'll start to see some of that cloud moving in. -1 by noon, and by the afternoon, we're looking at 0. Light winds still. And that's our forecast high for tomorrow. 1 degree on the way for Friday and 3 on Saturday. Could be a little bit breezy in the afternoon. Clouds stay around for the rest of the weekend into next week. Could see some showers on Monday, and we have a good chance of seeing perhaps some flurries or light snow coming our way through the later part of Wednesday. Well, a bagel shop in Montreal has teamed up with a cream cheese producer to create a bagel with no hole.
With no hole, and what a PR stunt. It has everyone talking in tonight's Daily Lift.
Here in Montreal, we pride ourselves on our bagels. Usually the question is, which bagel is better, Saint-Viateur or Fairmount? But a new ad campaign from Philadelphia Cream Cheese has us asking, what actually is a bagel?
A very precise, good bagel will have a hole, but also have a texture that's kind of chewy, yet not really heavy. And it can't be bready.
Philadelphia Cream Cheese has teamed up with bagel shops in the United States, as well as here in Saint-Viateur, for this campaign that they're calling Philadelphia Bagel Holes. Now that's holes with a W. The idea being that you can put more cream cheese on it if there is no hole in the bagel.
There's no hole, it's not a bagel.
It's all in the taste.
And?
Excuse me, it rocks. No hole, but hey, I'll take a dozen of these to go.
It needs to have a hole. No hole, no bagel.
For those interested, these bagels have to be made in separate batches because they do take longer to make. Saint-Viateur says after this 2-week campaign, they're not so sure they'll continue to offer them. Sarah Levitt, CBC News, Montreal.
But again, everybody's talking cream cheese suddenly.
Exactly.
So what the heck?
It worked.
Still look good to me. You know, you can actually put a lot of cream cheese in the hole. It's
true.
It's messy.
And I agree. It's all about the texture.
It's all about the cream
All about
cheese.
the texture.
Thanks for being with us.
See you at 11.